lucky, if you're really, really, really lucky, all of those things line up. The things you want happen to be the things that you need. But that's part of the problem, is that we don't know the things that we need. That's why we want something different. If you really knew what you needed, you would probably want those things that you need. So we were talking last week about who we are. And we came up with all kinds of things, like a person is anxious, depressed, sad, and all of these things. And of course we are also, we point out sometimes as Calvinists, we can be happy as well. So we can be kind of all across the spectrum. But these are the kinds of things that we typically think of when we ask people about themselves. Like, what are you? How do you feel? For some reason we zero in on these negative traits. And it's a pretty rare thing to find a person who thinks especially highly of themselves. They do exist. They're called narcissists. But you're going to find that most people, kind of, especially when we're younger, exist at these margins of either thinking really lowly of ourselves, like I'm just, I'm too fill in the blank of whatever that could be. I'm too fat, or I'm too ugly, or I'm too medium, whatever. We're going to find something wrong with ourselves that other people probably don't see, but you see it in yourself. And then we also have that small sliver of people who are narcissists. And of course we do have the people kind of in the middle who are pretending to be self-confident, but really lack this level of confidence. So now, the precision that he's talking about here. Okay? And you don't have to believe in God or be religious to understand what it is that he's talking about here. Let's not be that, that sixth grader who folds his arms and says, I don't know what God would want, because I don't believe in God. What does Santa Claus want from you?
Be nice.
Be nice. He has a list, doesn't he? He's checking to see who's naughty or nice. So you can know, even if you don't believe in an entity, what that entity would want of you. So let's not be silly about it. So I guess the question now is, what would God intend you to be?
Honest.
Yeah, he wants you to be honest. What else? Just no trick question here.
Hardworking.
Hardworking.
Responsible.
Responsible. Respectful. Put a blank there. There's lots of things, of course, that we can imagine that God would want us to be. He wants to be honest. He wants to be loyal. He wants to be loving. He wants to be compassionate. He wants to be caring. He wants to make the most of what we are, to become the best of what we possibly could become. He would want all of these things for us. And yet, we oftentimes see ourselves this way, or we see other people, actually we see ourselves this way, and sometimes we see other people this way. But that's what it is to love a person. Not necessarily to love a person as they are, but to see them as they're intended to be. In other words, to see the best of their potential, the best of their capabilities. It's a hard thing to love a person exactly as they are. In fact, we'll take it one step back. It's really hard to love yourself as you are. And that's the first step towards loving another person. You can't give $1 million unless you have it. You can't give love unless you have it. And so it's interesting to me that we see other people in this way, and yet we see ourselves in this way. And that tells us something, that, I don't know, we don't love ourselves enough. If you loved yourself enough, you would be the things that you know would be, that you're intended to be. I guess I asked this question. If you guys had friends who you actually loved, friends who you actually cared about, or family members, whatever, would you settle if they were sad, anxious, and depressed, lonely? Would you just sit there and go, that's just them? No, probably not. It would bother you that they saw themselves this way. If they thought that they were too fat, or too ugly, or too skinny, or too whatever, would you just rest there and go, I can see why you would think that? No, of course not. You'd pump them up. You'd help them you'd help them past that. You'd help them find a way to love themselves. You could tell them, like maybe the problem here is about your honesty. Like, I'm a piece of crap, I'm a liar. So what can you do? Stop lying. It's hard. Of course it is. Lots of things are if you have a habit of it. But the first things first, maybe before you start telling the truth, just stop saying things that aren't true. And then once you can stop saying things that aren't true, then you can start telling the truth. In other words, Stop saying things that aren't true, and then start saying things that are true. Rather than going out and saying, I caught a fish that was this big, stop saying that. Once you can stop saying that, then you can start saying, there's room in your life to start saying the truth. I caught a fish that was this big. Now there's room in your life for truth. First you have to take out all of the things that are untrue. You have to remove all of these other things over here that are cluttering, because one thing you're going to know is that, yeah, sadness and anxiety and depression, those things are true. But the things that are probably feeding into that are the things that are not true. Nobody cares about me. That's why I'm sad, anxious, and depressed. That absolutely is not true. I can't imagine that's true about anybody in this room. There's somebody out there. Maybe it's not the people you want to care about you, but there's a difference between getting the things that you want in life and getting the things that you need in life. And if you're lucky, if you're really, really, really lucky, all of those things line up. The things you want happen to be the things that you need. But that's part of the problem, is that we don't know the things that we need. That's why we want something different. If you really knew what you needed, you would probably want those things that you need. But they're askew. And so if we can get those things into alignment, then we'd be a hell of a lot happier. Certainly a lot more joyful. The things that feed into this, again, are the things that are not true. Someone cares about you, of course. And besides it, even if nobody cares about you, it's the first step to it, all of it, caring about yourself. Treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. Treat yourself like you would treat a close friend. Treat yourself like you would treat a family member who you actually loved. Very important. Not like your cousin, but the person you actually loved. And then once you can treat that person, and so now, once you can treat yourself like you would treat that other person, now you can start to do these things. I should be honest. Why? Because if I'm not honest, I'm not respectable. People are going to find out eventually that I'm lying. And once they find that out, they're going to, my character is going to be degraded, and people are going to like me even less. So that's the first things first. And then also it's difficult to take yourself seriously when you know that you're a liar. It's difficult to love yourself. I'm talking long term. In the short term, you might be like, oh, I got away with this. But then you realize that you're a liar. To be hardworking, I don't know, man. I'm not sure if there's much more in our lives that's more beneficial to us than this, to work hard. In other words, to find something. I'm not saying to work hard in every single area of your life and go grab a rake and clear out a field somewhere. I'm not just talking about that. I'm saying to find something in your life that's worth working hard for. Whether it's a job, whether it's a spouse, whether it's yourself, whether it's a hobby, whatever it is, to find something that's worth working hard for. Because comfort, joy, and happiness and achievement is never, ever, ever found in comfort. Comfort is a time that you relax and you can sit back and look back on your accomplishments. But if there's not much to look back on, how comfortable can that possibly be? Maybe that's why we use that time to distract ourselves with television, media, and stuff like that. To entertain ourselves, to distract us from our lack of accomplishments, from hard work. I'm not saying every time we relax it's a bad thing. Just make sure that you've earned it. Anything that you have in life, make sure that you've earned it. You won't appreciate the things that you haven't earned. Same is true about responsibility. This is your antidote to sadness, anxiety, and depression. To be able to fulfill your responsibilities. I'm talking about the responsibilities that you willingly take on. Not things that I come along and say, hey, get this done. But the things in your life that you willingly take on, say, I'm going to accomplish this for some purpose. I'm going to go to work every day. Why? Oh, because I have to pay bills. And you have to pay bills. I don't have to do anything except for stay white and die. Everything after that is going to be a choice. The question is going to be, what choices are you going to put yourself into? You assume the responsibility of having a spouse. And then you assume the responsibilities of having children. It doesn't suck. It gives you a purpose and a meaning and a direction in your life. You assume the responsibility of going to a class. Work hard in it. Why not? You're there anyway. The time is going to pass anyway. You might as well get something out of it. And there's a huge distinction between the people who get something out of even the mundane things in life. What's more mundane than just going down to the supermarket? Why can't that be something interesting and exciting? If you go with the right people. Sometimes in your life, you are the right people to go with by yourself. If you're lonely by yourself, then you're probably in bad company. That's an indicator that we need to fix something. To be respectful. Why not? What are you doing otherwise? What's the advantage in being disrespectful? Being disrespectful is a sign of disrespect towards oneself. What I mean by that is a person who gets a great deal of respect doesn't feel the need to go out into public and shit on people. If you're getting respected, if you're getting disrespected everywhere, That's the person who goes down to McDonald's and then gives the person behind the counter a bunch of shit over how they're doing their job. Because they just got treated like crap at work, so now they want to go treat somebody else like crap. So in other words, you're just pushing everything downstream and you're making the world a worse place. So maybe the problem is that you're not being respected. Maybe you're not respecting yourself. Maybe that's why you're being disrespected, because you allow people to disrespect you. Fix yourself. Fix yourself, you fix all of these. And then maybe you can see yourself and love yourself the way that you're intended to be. The way that you would want your friends and your loved ones to be seen. And I guess I'm just saying, treat yourself like someone who matters. At the very least, you should matter to yourself. And many of you really need to do that, because you're going to matter to somebody else later in your life. Many of you are going to have children. I mean, how many of you would be happy to introduce your parents and say, my mom, she has to be the saddest, most anxious and depressed human being I've ever met. I love my mom that way. Of course not. We wouldn't want our parents to feel this way. We wouldn't want our loved ones to feel this way. Someday, whatever it is, whatever feelings you have towards your loved ones, you're going to have small ones looking up to you someday. Maybe it's a good idea to get a head start on that now. Be ahead of it. Because most people's experience, if that's any roadmap, it's going to be a surprise to you when it happens. I mean, many of us were probably surprises to our parents when we happened. So get ahead of the game. And you're going to find yourself way further in life than you otherwise would have been, even if those other things never happened. So, questions? Comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Thursday? Ish. Why do I feel like there's a joke that I'm not in on? You ever get that feeling? Yeah. I feel like that right now, for some reason.